Live.
Hi, and welcome to our Facebook Live series, Ask the Vision Loss Experts Coping with COVID-19. My name is Dr. Tricia Grand, and I am the Senior Director of Low Vision Research at the Chicago Lighthouse.
And I'm Dr. Brian Walensky, and I'm a low vision optometrist in New York City, and I work with Orcam Technologies. Welcome, everybody. It's our intent to discuss topics, engage, and share information as pertains to vision loss during this time of social isolation and this COVID-19 pandemic. In episodes, we're bringing in guests, topics, and things that concern the community during this time. And actually, well, really welcome everybody, because this is our 10th episode.
Yay! So we welcome everyone to join, whether you or your loved ones are visually impaired or blind, or you just want to learn more about the experiences of people who have vision loss, especially during this time.
So thank you everyone who's been joining us each week. Thank you for letting us know you've enjoyed the content. And if you know someone else who might enjoy it, who wants to take part in these discussions, take a moment and hit that share button on the post. So last week, we asked, as we always do, is our question of the day. So last week we asked, what are you looking forward to going to? And this week we want to know, what are you very concerned about? You know, where are you concerned about getting back into? Are you concerned about going to restaurants and stores or the office once things open up, or maybe already have opened up? Give us specifics of what your concerns are. And even if you have some ideas, or solutions to those problems, please bring them up to us. Let us know, post that below, and we're going to discuss it later.
And we want to welcome guests that we have with us today, and we have Brooke Keaton on the phone with us, and we thank you, Brooke, for joining us each week. We know that you're in the audience, and we wanted to talk to you today. So just a bit about Brooke. She is a native of New Jersey, but she considers Chicago her home. She's an avid boxer and weightlifter, so basically don't mess with her. And normally I would have a lot more to say about Brooke, but she's here, and I want to let her tell her own story. So Brooke is on the phone. Go ahead, Brooke.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been visually impaired for 40 years. I have Stargardt's, and so it's a progressive disease, and you lose your central vision. You still maintain a certain amount of peripheral vision, but and what about me? Well, I'm a really great cook. I love my fitness workout. I love my my cats, my home. That's about, I'm a pretty simple girl.
That's great. Welcome, Brooke. Thanks for being here today. We always ask our guests that question of the day, but we're going to do that a little later with you, because this week is what's really about, it's what we're discussing is really reconnections and getting back out there. And I heard, you heard of us by connecting with someone who introduced you to our discussion. So can you share that story?
Well, I, in January, started a gym in Chicago here, Studios Fuse, and the owner, Andrea Metcalf, happens to know Angela D'Antonio, who works at the Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind. And she said to me, "Oh, you have to meet Angela." So she put us together, and unfortunately, it was exactly right at the point that everything was beginning to shut down, but I've had wonderful conversations with Angela, and it's been just it just literally fell out of the sky. I ended up at Studios Fuse because my trainer, who teaches me boxing and fitness, Adam, opened a gym under Andrea's umbrella. So it was my lucky day when that happened, and I met Angela, and so I've met you, and I've had this wonderful webcast, and I'm looking forward to the reopening at the Lighthouse. I'm interested to reconnect with the blind and visually impaired community. I want to know how things are better than they maybe were for me, or maybe how we can make them better.
That is so great. And so we've been talking a lot about reconnecting with the world, and the world is opening up in different phases. And you just mentioned the Lighthouse opening up, and so you've been experiencing that as well as trying to connect with the blind and visually impaired community. We talked a bit about that in previous conversations, and can you tell us why that is important to you?
I've had some difficulties. I've experienced discrimination or discomfort in the sighted community with blind people, and I certainly I think that needs to open up and change. So I'm all for that. And so how do we go about educating people in the vision, the people that are sighted, so that they understand that we are here. We need to be in the community. We need to we need jobs. We need, and our needs are not. I guess it's more of a matter of blending in. It's not a matter of. I think there's fear involved in with sighted people when it comes to blind and visually impaired people. Maybe it's what they don't understand, and maybe I think there's a lot of fear of liability, and we have to get rid of that.
Well, I know we talked a lot about that when we spoke to you on the phone, and just to let everybody know, we do have Brooke here on the phone talking. We had a little technical difficulties getting her actually on the screen, and we apologize for that. But that was an important discussion that we had about really educating people, and education is really the key here for everything, and even everything that's going on now to our new normal. And just like, we were also talking about, you going on public transportation and jumping back out there since your city opened. You went on the bus for the first time. Can you tell us about that experience? How that made you comfortable or uncomfortable even?
Well, I was concerned, and the first day that I went out, I think it was the 3rd of June, I was concerned, and I had my mask and my hand sanitizer, and I experienced a lot of people that were not wearing face covering, and so I realized that the potential, there's nothing you can do. You can't control what people are going to do. So we need to make sure that we're protected, face covering, hand sanitizer. And then what I did the next time was I started wearing the latex gloves on the bus, because I feel like, there's so much potential on public transportation for spread. So protect myself, protect everybody else. And the other thing I do is I always clean my cane.
Very smart. Yeah.
No, that's smart as well. And just to let everybody know too, just wearing gloves, and I know we discussed this as well, it can kind of give that false sense of security also.
Yeah.
So just remember, when wearing those gloves, throw them away afterwards, and make sure you don't touch your face or your eyes or your hand, or, just touch your face anywhere, because you can still cross.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. And
if you're going to wear latex gloves, you have to remember to change them, and they have to come off after every bus ride. And, you can't just keep wearing them. You have to take them off and throw them away.
And throw them in the garbage, because I know we've seen them laying around
all over the street.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
That's not the way to keep clean, everyone.
No, I think it's important that what you mentioned is you're wearing gloves because you feel comfortable doing that. You're protecting yourself. You mentioned that you had a medical condition, that you're worried about getting out there, but you're doing it, and you're wearing a mask. You're doing what's proper. You're trying to keep that distance, and you're hoping other people do as well. But like you said, respect everyone. They choose to do, whether they wear gloves or not. But hopefully, everyone is wearing the masks, because that is what's called for.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
And Brooke, when we initially talked to you, you had mentioned to us that you were previously in culinary school, and you felt like you didn't have much of the support that you needed, and even the technology was not available to you, or if it was not made available to you. How do you think things have changed since then? And in your opinion, have things improved at all?
Well, technology has certainly improved. I was in culinary school 30 years ago, and then in college 40 years ago. So technology has made leaps, but I can't say that all my instructors weren't there to help me, but there were certainly some that believed I didn't belong there. I don't believe that's true, but technology could be incredibly useful in a culinary career. The voiceover technology that we have now, and the robot technology that we have now can be so instructive. It can give you prompts. You'd be able to keep production lists for a kitchen. I think it would be incredible. And I know people that are blind and visually impaired that are great cooks and great chefs. I unfortunately didn't make a lifetime career in the culinary world, but that's okay. maybe there's somebody out there that's going to do it now, that's going to carry the torch.
Yes, and there are people out there. I actually know 2 people who are chefs who are actually OrCam users, and it does help them in different ways for their job, for their careers, and just the art of cooking and their enjoyment for that too. So,
oh my gosh, that's right, OrCam. That's amazing.
Well, now that we're opening up too, hopefully we can get a demo for you on that when you get over to the Chicago Lighthouse. But going out, starting places that you went to. So you mentioned that you got on the bus, you weren't comfortable, but you got comfortable because you found your way. Now you're going back to your gym.
Yes.
You're starting out. What do you recommend to others how to reconnect into the world? Should they just jump out there into it, or take it a little slow?
Well, I think taking it slow is important. I think finding out about where it is you're going. First and foremost, the reason that I felt comfortable going back to the gym is because Andrea Metcalf and Adam Dicker posted what they were doing in order to keep everybody safe, keep us safe, keep them safe, and the other people that work there. And I also know the space very well, so I knew that was very feasible. When it comes to other places that I'm dying to go to, I'm a little more reticent. I feel a little bit uncomfortable about restaurants. So I think, I've been supporting my favorite places by doing takeout, but I think that I would investigate. If there's somewhere I want to go, I would call up and find out what they're doing. If they have outside seating. And I heard somebody talk the other day about they're having misters outside in order to keep that vapor from spreading, and fans to keep the air moving. Yeah. I think that I would just be doing my homework. I wouldn't just barge out the door and go head somewhere. I'm thinking it's better to look into it and be certain of where you're going, and also be prepared if you're not comfortable to go, to leave. That's very important.
Definitely. No, you mentioned some good things, and you mentioned even about even familiar places you might have even changed where they located things. They might have put up a new barrier or a new system or a new this. So even if you make that initial phone call to say, hey, is everything, in the same location that you remember it last time, maybe they moved, going to the supermarket, they moved the shelves for the cereal to another aisle. You might want to know that initially because you're used to going to a certain area of the supermarket.
That's an amazing point that you just made about the grocery store, because I have developed a friendship, a relationship with the manager of my local grocer over these issues during COVID-19. We've had several phone conversations where I've asked him similar questions, and so I've gotten to know him that way because he's helped me to locate things in the store.
That's great, and that's
so funny you brought that up.
And there you go, Brooke, educating people, which is what I know you have to do. So that's great. And that's important. Everyone talking.
Yes, exactly. And we talk a lot on this show about advocating for yourself, about technology, which you just mentioned right now. And then you said earlier that people didn't feel like you should be in culinary school. And I know you had to advocate for yourself quite a bit. So why do you think it's important to advocate for yourself?
Well, and in terms of advocating for yourself, that is really important, but not always easy.
Yeah.
You have to, it's not easy, first of all, to find your voice when you're being, when there's pushback coming at you. This is why I've started to think in terms of having an advocacy program for the blind and visually impaired, and not even professionals, but somebody maybe not even that you know that well, but somebody super objective who could speak for you. Because sometimes when things happen, you lose your voice, or maybe you're not being listened to. That's something that I feel I've experienced, not being listened to or heard. And sometimes having a certain disability, any kind of a disability, there is a tendency for the community outside to see you as maybe a little less than, or, you know, and so when you speak up, it's not taken seriously. And maybe that would be a good thing, is to have people that advocate for the blind and visually impaired when they run into trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're an advocate out there and doing your
Yeah.
part. We all need to do our part. You know, I wanted to just remind everybody that we have Brooke Keaton here, and she's discussing reconnecting into the community as things sort of open up, and as we all are. And I'm Dr. Brian Walensky, and this is Dr. Tricia Grant, and we're here discussing vision loss during the time of social isolation and COVID-19. So, you know, as you are reconnecting and you talk about advocating and you talk about educating, you know, you're actually doing something different this year. You have a new podcast called Blind Faith. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, it's brand new. Again, I'm going to mention Andrea Metcalf, because when we met in January, she came to me one day and said, I'm starting a podcast through my gym, and you're going to do a podcast. And I'm really basically rather shy, even, you know, and so I kind of thought, well, she's just being nice. But no, she was completely serious. And so, and then again, shortly after we shut down, so she said, I want you to use this time during shelter in place to work on your podcast. So I downloaded the Anchor podcast app and just started recording. I've been talking about what it's like to live alone as a blind person. And I had just moved in January, so there was a lot to talk about, still is. Organizing a home when you're blind is pretty crucial. And you learn about how to organize, how to mark things in your home so that, you know, oven, stovetop, you know, all of these things, you need to know where the buttons are, and you need to know which buttons are which. The air conditioner, that just came up recently. So yeah, that's basically what it's about. But then also just some of the trials and tribulations of being a blind or visually impaired person. You know, I think that depression or anxiety are certainly things that can crop up in anybody's life, but they definitely affect the blind and visually impaired. So I talk about those things. I even did a podcast about putting on my makeup.
That's
so
important.
It is. You know, you want to feel great when you walk out the door every day.
Yeah, that's great. Do you know when it will be released?
Well, you can actually go to the website, the Studios Fuse website, and find the links to the podcasts. Andrea does one as well. And I can send you that link so that maybe you could put it up on the website, so that it's there's a lot of information there, but the podcasts are at the Studio Fuse Chicago website.
Oh, that's great. Yes, please send us the link so that we can share it with everyone.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I'm nervous, because I kind of feel like I'm no expert, but I'm just a regular person talking about what it's like to be blind, and a journey of 40 years into, you know, maybe not total blindness, but a progression.
Well, it sounds great. So thank you for sharing that with us. I think our listeners will really want to hear that. So we thank you so much for being here today and everything you shared with us. We're just going to end with one quick question for you, and that is our question of the day. What places are you most concerned with going to?
Certainly concerts, movie theaters, anywhere where there's a large gathering. I think I'm pretty hesitant.
That makes sense. That makes
Definitely,
a ton of
I
sense.
understand that.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you again, Brooke, for joining us today. We're so happy that we can get you in on the phone. And
thanks, Dr. Walensky. Thank you, Dr. Grant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Look
Take
forward
care.
to being in touch. Thank you.
Everybody stay well.
You too. Bye. That was great. We could always rely on the good old-fashioned phone when technology is not working well.
That's all right. That was great to talk to Brooke. She brings up a lot of good points and a lot of things people are thinking about and people are doing.
Definitely. Yeah. I had so many conversations with her leading up to today. We both did, and she has so many great stories to tell. She's lived, it seems, many lifetimes. So it's great to hear her stories.
Well, I think that's what it's about. It's everybody's story. We all have our own stories that we have, and it's a great time to talk about that. And what we wanted to do is actually have the audience members, our listeners, give us their stories and tell us, what are you going through? What have you gone through? And do you have any thoughts to share? And we want you to send us your stories. We're going to pick a couple next week. We're going to mention an email that you can send some stories to. If you want to remain anonymous, just let us know. We won't say your name, where you're from, but if you want to let everybody know, we'll say hi and, give a little shout out. But really, it's just to help all of each other and help everybody learn and tell us your stories and what you've been through. And if you have some solutions to things also, we want to hear.
Yeah, and they could just be short, small stories. It doesn't have to be anything substantial, just something that you want to share with the audience. We'll share it for you. And we don't want you to post these on our Facebook Live comment section. We actually want you to send them to us. So we have a new email address that we're going to share with you. It's stories, STORIES, at chicagolighthouse.org. Again, that's stories at chicagolighthouse.org. We'll mention it again at the end of our session today, and we will also post that in the comment section below.
So Dr. Grant, so we asked, our question of the day, what is the place you're kind of nervous about getting into or going back to, or concerns?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like the biggest hypocrite right now, because you asked me last week what we're excited about, and I said I'm excited to go sit on a patio, and I actually did that, and I was not ready. I had to leave because people weren't wearing their masks. You're amongst strangers. There's no real true social distancing once you're inside and seated. You're outside, so the air is moving, so that's nice, but you're still amongst other people who you don't know. And you can't really wear the mask the whole time because you're drinking. So, you have to keep taking it off, putting it back on. And I was just like, it's too much for me. So I left, and I left my friends there. So now they know why if they're watching. Sorry, that's why I left. But yeah, I think it's just like Brooke said, you have to kind of ease into things and what you're comfortable with. And that was a situation that I thought I was comfortable in, and I wasn't. So I am more hesitant to be in spaces where there are a lot of people.
No, and I'm sure your friends understand. And it's respecting everybody's decision and what is comfortable for them.
Absolutely. And how about you? What are you nervous about getting back into?
It's nervous. It's the same thing I said what I was looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing my niece and my nephews. And the issue with that is, it's summertime. I want to spend time with them. My brother has a pool in his backyard. It'd be a lot of fun. I miss that time, but I, still am doing eye exams. I'm still seeing people. And I worry about getting in touch with them, and maybe if I can cause any harm to them, because they're little kids. I don't want anything happening. And then my father, who's 74, and my mother, who's in her 70s, I don't want to spread anything. So I'm nervous about spending really quality and close time with family. So really, I have been, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So that's what I'm nervous. I'm nervous about me. I don't want to do that. So
I think that's a very valid concern. Julie Hall commented, she said that she's concerned it's way too soon. And Julie's been watching our show for a while. I know she's in Arizona, and Arizona has, their cases have been increasing. So they're in a place that we were, New York was in several months ago, Chicago was in a couple months ago. So that's the thing across the country. And, we're even talking to people, or we have listeners who are international, everyone's in a little bit of a different stage and feeling a little bit different nerves. And I think we all really need to respect that when you're talking to other people who are saying, okay, it's time to get back out. And other people are saying, no, it's time to stay in the house. You know, it's a matter of where we're all at as our city and states.
Sure. Like here in New York, we're just going to be starting on Monday into phase 2, but you do see people relaxing a little bit, which is what
definitely.
Which is what Stephanie Sims mentions. She said she's a little worried about being around so many people. And I think that's a common theme with everyone because people seem to be really relaxing. No mask, gloves, getting way too close. I've seen it also. I have my cane. I say to people, I'm using my cane to keep a safe distance. And I say it with a smile. And that's actually, we were going to discuss an article we read in a little bit that actually discusses that in there, that they're seeing a more surgence of people actually using their cane for that reason. So Stephanie, a lot of other people are doing the same thing.
Yes, and our friend Andy says any major venues are crowded places. So he's echoing some of our same thoughts, that if there are just a lot of people around, it's just really not comfortable at this time.
Yeah, so venues, crowds, I think that's just a big theme for everyone, and that's going to be hard for everyone. Because even like I mentioned crowds, I mentioned my niece and my nephews, you know, there's about a family of, you know, when we get together of 10 people, but I'm still nervous even about 10 people getting together.
Yeah, I know. It really, it's to think about of how important is it to do. And it is important for your mental health, but we have to think about all aspects of.
Sure. Julie Paul makes a great comment. I'm most nervous about my child returning to school. Now I know that might be a few weeks away or months, or I don't know, depending on where you live. I know Florida starts school like really early on in August, but I mean, definitely going back to school and being social again. It's hard. It's something.
I agree too. Very nerve-wracking. So we read this great article. It was by Forbes, but it was quoting a lot of the Royal National Institute of Blind People, and it really had a lot of great points that we've been making, and it's or that we've also been reading and hearing about. So it's really great to get this international perspective as well. So what types of things did you find interesting in that article or parallel what we talk about here?
Sure. Well, one is the author of the article was an amazing guy, a guy who actually, he's been writing articles for years, and he has MS, and he advocates for people with disabilities and writes many articles and contributes to advocating. So I thought that part was great, and the article was well written. And he discusses the RNIB, which is the Royal National Institute of Blind People. And I've met some people from RNIB at conferences in the past, and it's a great group located in the UK. And that's what we want to do. We're talking about what's going on in the rest of the world. We do have international listeners here. Just last week, there was someone who asked a question from the Netherlands at the end, and I was happy to see that. And he was an OrCam user, and he was talking about how he was cooking his dinner and having his dinner and listening to us. So hopefully he's there again. Hello.
Yes.
But what I liked is the RNIB did their own study, and what they found out is that a lot of the things we've mentioned, supermarkets and food, and what we mentioned is access to food. And I know we brought it up a while back about deliveries and stuff like that. They did a study, like a survey, and 1 in 5 people had to resort to rationing their food. And 3/4 of people struggled to even access or get food. So
that's significant.
It is. So one thing though that I then looked further into on the RNIB website, which is great that they were able to do in England, is that they were able to they put out a petition, and they had many signatures and people sign it, and they were able to get major supermarkets in England to comply with giving priority delivery slots for people who are blind or visually impaired.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah,
that's important.
I try to spread it all throughout the UK now.
Oh, that's awesome. We need to do that in the United States. So maybe we need to follow their motto, because that is definitely very important.
Sure. Is there anything that you read in that article that?
The article talked about how we're all referencing the new normal, and how that new normal has created some barriers for people who are blind and visually impaired, and how we can't let that new normal impact the independence and the strides that people have made thus far. So I thought that was really important. And they talked about a lot of the things in grocery stores. And no, we talk a lot about grocery stores, but it's such an important community area. You know, we need to go to grocery stores. We need to access them. But they did mention how many of the different markers throughout the store are visual only, and how practices like a person who is visually impaired may need to take in. I think everyone does this, really, is just grab things off the shelf to kind of inspect it further, and then you might end up putting it back on the shelf if it's not what you want. But how that's being kind of looked at as poor practice now. And I think there just needs to be an overall greater understanding of how people need to function throughout the grocery store, and how it does need to be more of an inclusive environment. And I think we're going to keep talking about the grocery stores because they have to be our models, because we do need to go there. We all need to access the grocery stores. And so many of the practices that are being done to keep most people safe are not taking into account people who have vision loss. So it's really important that we do continue to call out the grocery stores.
No, not just all businesses, and our buses, our transportation. It even mentions this concerns and attitudes of staff. They specifically mention transport staff and providing any guided assistance. I know this is an issue with even travel in the past by airplane or cabs, or any type of other services.
Right.
An issue. And another thing that I actually like that they mentioned is guide dogs.
Yeah, so, I was going to say that too. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it was just an interesting take on how dogs have been trained for the pre-pandemic era. And, I haven't talked to anyone who has been using their dog and to navigate afterwards. And it is true that things are just opening up now. So we're going to hear more of this, I think, because that was the other thing the article mentioned, is during the quarantine, the streets were emptier and everyone was kind of on the same page of what needed to be done and how to access things. But now that everyone's out, you just don't know who's wearing their mask, who's staying 6 feet distance, and on and on. So I would like to talk to someone who's using a dog to see what, to have a better understanding. What are the differences, and what new training do the dogs need now that there's additional distance and additional ways of navigating the public?
Exactly. So Robin mentions another thing. Robin Whalen, hello. Hello, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Another thing, many restaurants require you to scan barcodes.
Yes.
Menus. First, you have to find the table card. Yep.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that I experienced that over the weekend when I went to the one patio.
Okay, I haven't experienced that yet because we're not open to that point yet. So we will see if I'll brave a restaurant.
Good luck.
Reading that article, it was great to hear like an international perspective and experience that are very similar and that's happening all over the world. Like I said, most of our listeners here are from the US, but we do have people from all over the world here. And next week, if everything goes all as planned, and we'll have him on video, we are going to bring on an international community member. So I can't wait to talk.
That is great.
Yeah. You guys get to hear his story. And also, we want to hear your stories.
Yes. Reminder, send in your stories. We would love to hear from everyone. So send them in, we'll read them. And it's okay if maybe you think you can't construct your story really well, just send us your thoughts, jot down some thoughts, and we'll kind of help you out with how to tell the story. So again, stories@chicagolighthouse.org. We'll also put it in our Ask the Experts webpage, which is at www.chicagolighthouse.org, and type in Ask the Experts in the search menu.
Exactly. And like I said, and like we were saying before, if you want to remain anonymous, just let us know.
Yeah,
that's okay.
just tell us.
It's all just about sharing and helping each other. And hopefully everybody out there is going to be reconnecting into life and take your time. As Brooke told us on the phone call, she didn't say it today, but she said on the phone, dip your toe in the water.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I like that. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Till next week. We'll see you for our 11th episode next week.
Yes. Thanks for joining us all these weeks. And again, send in your stories. We'd love to hear them. And just always remember, still keep washing those hands and don't touch this.
Bye.